I would never have married the person I got married to if I knew the things then what I know now. These are some of the things that I hear a lot of times when I'm in contact with divorcees, whether they are my friends or they are my clients or they are just people around me, colleagues. Many of them have the sort of, will I say, word of regret that, if I knew that then, what I know now, I would not have gotten married to the person that I got married to. So, what really changed? We are going to find out, very soon. And this is why it's important that if you're a single person watching this, you want to prevent divorce before you get married. That's why we have this title today: How to Prevent Divorce Before You Get Married. Yes. Welcome to Purpose Driven Marriage Podcast, where we model kingdom marriage and help you align with God's purpose for your marriage. If you're new here, you're welcome. My name is Blessing Ekundayo. And if you've been following us for a while, us because my husband and I usually do this every week. He's not around today. As you can see, I'm the only one doing this. But we are committed to, bringing this to you every single week. And so if I'm unable to make it, or if either of us is unable to make it for whatever reason, we still show up anyways. And that's what marriage is all about. Marriage is teamwork, right? So today we've titled this How to Prevent Divorce Before You Get Married. And before you get married means while you're still single, while you're still searching, while you're still trusting God for that man or that woman of your dream to bring that person your way. And I think it's important for us to talk about this so that we can reduce the divorce rate, because the divorce rate is on the high. Like almost every day I'm hearing news of this person is divorcing, that person is divorcing, and it just breaks my heart. So I begin to wonder, what can we do to make things different, and that's why we have decided to talk about this topic. And if you're live here, welcome. I see my dear sister Ife, thank you for joining today. God bless you. And then while I'm sharing this, if you have anything, if you have questions, or other people are joining live but I've not seen any other comments, but feel free to leave a comment or ask questions or what have you, and I will see them and I'll do my best to answer or make a comment. Right. So I was saying that the divorce statistics is on the rise, and it's important that as a single person, you make up your mind that when I get married, my marriage is not going to add to the divorce statistics. Yes, you can say that and confess it to yourself. My marriage would not add to the divorce statistics in Jesus' name. Amen. Right. So, that's why I'm sharing this today, and I believe that you're going to learn a lot from it. You see, when people talk about marriage, people are always focused, or usually focused, on the person they want to get married to. Okay, and we've talked a lot about that kind of person, the qualities the person should have and all of those things. But a lot of times we hardly talk about you that is wanting to find that person, you that is wanting to get married, right? We don't focus a lot on ourselves. Like you too must be that right person. And one thing that I believe that made people to divorcees, especially, when they have a reflection, on their lives, on their marriage, on what could I have done better, the one thing that I think that was missing, or that's made the difference, between then and now, that's made them to see clearly, is maturity. Maturity is that one major thing, because if you look at their lives before marriage and after, during marriage, and then after the marriage has ended, a lot has happened for them. They've grown, they have matured, and so I think that the one thing that is very important before you set out to say, okay, I want to get married, I want to go and I want to say I do, is maturity. Very, very important. I always say maturity. We're not talking about just you growing. Yeah, sister, hi, thank you so much. Good morning. Thanks for joining me today. It's not about just sort of physical growth. People think that because you are growing, then you are mature. You just assume that they are mature. Have you seen like 16-year-old look like a 21 or 22-year-old a lady, because the person looks so well matured, and the person is driving and doing all of those things. But sometimes when you hear the person speak, you're like, oh, like you now realize, okay, you look like you are 20 something, but actually what you are saying, you're talking like a child. So maturity is not really only about, physicality. Don't assume that because you are with a 40-year-old man, as a woman, then the person is a mature person. There are so many people who are adults but are not mature. Maturity is the ability to take responsibility, is you having more concern for others, putting others before you, before the concern that you have for yourself. That's maturity. And we're going to be saying a lot more. And I believe that to prevent divorce, before you even get married, to avoid divorce, there are 4 levels of maturity that you need to have as a single person. 4 levels of maturity, and I'm going to be going through all of those 4 levels of maturity. And while we go through this, wherever you are, I want you to assess yourself. Where am I at in this level of maturity? Am I really ready for marriage? Because sometimes when I speak at events, one question that people ask me a lot is, what is the best age to get married? What is the best age to get married? And you're looking for a particular age to be mentioned. It's not really about a particular age, but I believe that the age is the age of maturity, to be honest with you. So let's go right into it. So number one, it's important that you have spiritual maturity. Spiritual maturity is very, very critical, before you say I do, and in order to prevent divorce, before you get married, you need to have spiritual maturity. And what do I mean by spiritual maturity? I'm not saying that you should become a pastor or an evangelist, or that you should be called, like you have a calling to do one particular thing for God. And that's not necessarily what I'm saying, even though those things are good, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you must understand and your walk with God. Number one, you must be born again to start with. You must understand, you must be having a working relationship with God, not necessarily just serving Him and going to church, because a lot of times many single people, people who are Christians in quotes, they have been going to church from childhood. My parents take us to church and things like that, and they worship or serve the God of their parents, but they are yet to know God for themselves. And so they are just being religious. They are doing things in church. They are leaders in church because they have just sort of grown and they've been there for a long time. But personally, they are yet to actually walk with God. Because like I like to say that there's a big difference between walking with God and walking for God. Many people are found working for God but not walking with Him. And so you need to be able to differentiate this and ask yourself, am I actually walking with God? Is God walking with me? Do I have a relationship with Him? Do I see Him as my Father, or I just see Him as this God that is just down there? Am I able to communicate with Him? Can I identify His voice? If He speaks to me in whatever way, can I identify that voice, or would I still be confused? If your answer is no, then this is a time as a single person that you should begin to work on that, begin to develop yourself, begin to see how your relationship with God, your Heavenly Father, can be better, because He wants you to have a relationship with Him, a working relationship with Him. And why is this important, to prevent divorce before you get married? Because when you have that relationship with God, by the time it's time to get married, it's not like a big mission. It's not like a project. God, who am I going to get married to? Father, show me my partner or I die. You don't get to that point in your life, because you're working with people and the Holy Spirit will be ministering to you. The Holy Spirit will be guiding you. Even when a guy approaches you as a lady, you will sense in your spirit whether he's the right person or not. When you have a working relationship with God, those things already define your values. You know that as a child of God, you cannot marry somebody who is an unbeliever to start with. There are lots of marriages happen in the world that we live in today, that many Christians, so-called Christians, are going to join themselves. They are going into a union with an unbeliever for whatever reason, whether it's out of desperation that they want to become, married, or out of the love for money or fame or what have you. But I tell you what, if it's just a matter of time. If you do not know or have a working relationship with God, you'll probably fall into that trap also. So why is it important to know God for yourself? Because when you know God for yourself, you can avoid you can avoid or prevent divorce, because you know the kind of things that God wants for marriage. You will know that God designed marriage, and when He designed marriage, He had specifications for that marriage. Like when the Apple designed a phone, they designed this, that there are ways to handle the phone or the iPad. There are ways, that things that it can do for you. There are things that you should not do with it. For example, as in marriage, God designed it to be husband and wife, so one man and one woman. There is no polygamy with God's design. When God created Adam, He created Eve. He didn't create many Eves or many Adams at the same time. But human beings, we have developed, or cause lots of perversion with what God has designed for us. So as a child of God, when you have a working relationship with God, when you're spiritually mature, you know that you cannot go and be a second wife or a fourth wife or a seventh wife as a woman who loves God and knows the Lord. Like, it is a no. You are not getting into God's design for marriage. That's not a kingdom marriage. You know that as God's design for marriage, it's longevity. It's not when I don't feel like it anymore, then that's the end of marriage for me. No, it's a covenant. So your relationship with God gives you a different perspective about marriage. You don't see marriage like how the world sees marriage, because the world sees marriage as, if it's not working, if you're no longer in love, then get out. You fall in love, you fall out of love. That's the way the world sees marriage, and that's why the rate of divorce is on the rise. But God does not see that. God is intentional about us. So even when we do not do the right things, we're not showing that we actually genuinely love God, He doesn't fall out of love with us. Instead, He keeps chasing after us. That's why that song says He leaves the 99 always for the one. And it's important that you get to that level of spiritual maturity, that you understand that this is what marriage is all about. If you don't know what marriage is all about, there's no point getting into it. You need to understand who God is. God is a God of love, and that love has been shed abroad in your heart already. So when you're getting into marriage, you are ready to give that love out, not just to receive that love. I hope all of this is making sense. So spiritual maturity is very important, and one of the key highlighters for you to know that you're actually spiritually mature is not because you speak in tongues. It's not because you speak in tongues, or because you prophesy, or because you give words of knowledge or words of wisdom. No. That's not. I mean, anybody can do. Even people who don't have God, they can come up and act like they do. So it's not a good indication that you're actually spiritually mature. One of the keys to know that you're spiritually mature is how much of the fruit of the Spirit that you bear in your heart. How much of that fruit of the Spirit is working in your life. Yes, that is one of the keys to know that you are actually growing spiritually, because the Bible says, in Galatians 5, chapter 22-23, it says, for the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, all of those things. How much of them are you exuding in your heart when you have relationship with other people? How much of love do you have? How much of peace? How much of joy? How much of self-control do you have? All of those things. When people get you upset and get you angry, do you just lash out? That's how you can tell that you are spiritually mature or you are growing spiritually. Because it is important for you to develop yourself right now. Don't wait till you get married, because when you get married, that's an opportunity for you to continue to exercise the fruits that you're already bearing. Your spouse will offend you. Your spouse will do things to you that might hurt you. How are you going to react? Are you going to react? Are you going to respond? Are you going to be calm? Are you going to be cool-headed? Are you going to be able to talk things out? These are things that you need to develop before you get into marriage. So I will stop there. There's a lot to say about spiritual maturity, but that's number one. It's very, very critical if you want to avoid or prevent divorce before you get married. Talk about, not talk about, but work on those things for yourself. Develop yourself. Make sure that you are growing spiritually. You're spending time in God's word. You're studying the Bible. You have your own daily devotional, that you're committed to your own spiritual growth. Yeah. So while you're trusting God, God, bring this man my way, bring this woman your way, like, if the kind of person that you want to get married to, if like, be that kind of person also. You want to marry someone who is committed to God. Are you also committed to God? So while you're trusting God to bring that right man, that right woman, that person your way, make sure that you're also working on that journey to being the right person, right? So that's number one. The second maturity level that I would like to talk about is financial maturity. Remember, we are talking about how to prevent divorce before you get married, and we talked about how the number one, the major thing that is critical is maturity. Yeah, maturity. And I'm talking about four levels of maturity here, right? So we've talked about spiritual maturity, that's number one. The second level of maturity I'll talk about is financial maturity. Now, it's important to have money. Okay, that's not really what I'm talking about, but money is good. Yeah, money is great, but most important thing is make sure that you have this level, you get to a certain level of financial independence for yourself, whether you're a man or a woman. You're not someone who is wanting to get married and you are still depending on your parents for for your livelihood. Like, it means that if you get married, are your parents going to be looking after you too? If you're a man, for example, your parents are the ones that are still giving you like pocket money to sustain you. Then when you get married, you're gonna have a woman, and then I think I always tell guys, like, if you're going to get married, right, make sure that if you're ready for marriage, make sure that you have enough income to look after yourself, your wife, and a child. Because babies don't tell you that they are coming; they just come sometimes. And that first 9 months might be okay. She gets pregnant with first 9 months, and she gives birth after 9 months. Yeah, some people are like fast like that. They are quick like that. So you don't want to get into a situation where you're not prepared, you're not ready for this baby, and then you start running helter skelter and running around, and this puts a strain on yourself, on your wife, on your child, on your marriage. So as a man, make sure that you are ready. I'm not saying that you need to be wealthy or you need to be rich or you need to have several houses, no, but number one, make sure that you're working, you have a source of income. You've developed yourself to that point where you can actually make ends meet for yourself, and for your wife and children or child, whoever is going to make, whatever the case may be at the beginning when you get married. And you can look after them, and that's, there will be less risk of financial strain. You know what I mean? Because no matter how much a woman is earning, your wife can be earning, that's great, but no matter how much a woman is earning, she does not want to get to a point where you are dependent on her for your for your source of livelihood. In fact, a woman wants to get from you no matter how much she's earning, she still wants to receive something from you. So as a man, make sure that you have a source of income. Do not just say I've heard ladies come to me and say, oh, the person I want to get married to is not working, and he wants me to help, and he wants me to do this, I want me to do that. Man, I'm like, what effort is he making if he's wanting to get married to you and he's idle or like a daskel about life or about his finances and is depending on you now to do so many things for him? Then it's very likely that when you get married to him, is going to continue to be dependent on you, and you have trained him to be dependent on you. And as a woman, you will not like that. So it's important that you, as a man watching me, please be financially independent, be able to look after yourself, after your finances, have that level of maturity where you know how to handle your finances. You are not wasteful. So while you are still single as a man, this is the time for you to develop yourself, work on your finances, manage your finances, know what your money language is. All of those things are very important while you're still single, right? As a person. And as a woman, now let me talk to women. As a single lady, I'll encourage you, please make sure that you also have your own source of income. Yes, it is critically important. I cannot overemphasize this. Very important. Why is this important? A lot of times I know many people say, oh, he loves me, he loves me, he loves me, he loves me. But I'll tell you what, when there are many instances, one of the causes of divorce also in the world today is domestic abuse. It's vice versa, but a lot of times it's more from the man to the woman, and you will realize that the man is more likely to take advantage of you when you are a woman who is totally dependent on him financially, when you do not have any sort of income, you don't have anything that you can do, you need to even buy underwears. Please, can I buy underwears? You cannot eat if he does not provide for you. You cannot do anything if it's not good enough, to be honest with you. And you if you, God forbid, if you are married to a man who is not who God has not really dealt with, in terms of his behavior. Many men use that opportunity to actually abuse their wives. Sadly, they say mean things, emotional abuse, verbal abuse. Even though she's there looking after you, looking after the home, looking after the children, but they do not appreciate the value of the woman that they have. Why? Because she is not bringing any income to the house or to the home. But the men don't realize that they would never be able to go to that work and have peace in that work if that woman was not there anyways. But as a woman, it gives you more value. In fact, you want to do stuff for yourself. You don't have to wait for him to cough before before you look after yourself. And many women who are in abusive marriages today, who are still in abusive marriages today, are there. They'll tell you, oh, if I leave, what's going to become of my life? What's going to become of the life of my children? Because they don't have anything to do, or they don't have any sort of money, or their finances. Finance is zero for them. The man is completely in control of that finance. And so ladies, make sure that you have your own money, like you have your own source of income, even though both of you are going to get married, and if you want to do joint account and things like that. But make sure you have your own source of income, that if you realize that the man is not being man enough, you can support. You can do things. You can do things for yourself. You're on a project. You have a project. You have the money to support your own project, or even his project. You are there as a helpmate, so you can support all of those things, and you are not just feeling miserable in the marriage. It's very, very important. I cannot overemphasize this. Financial maturity is very critical, and as a woman, also learn how to manage your finances. You can, if you can, get to a point where you can deny yourself some pleasures, just for other long-term values. So while you're still single, if you can afford it, why you get into stocks, get into shares, invest in so many things. If you can buy your own landed property, please go ahead and buy it. Don't wait till you get married. Some people wait for marriage. Don't wait for marriage before you start making your life happen. No, don't put your life on hold because of marriage. Start enjoying your life, start living your life while you're still single, right? And get financially educated. Read books. I just got a book recently, The Psychology of Money, and that book has opened my eyes to things, wonderful, amazing things, about money, about investment. Now I'm investing my money into stocks now and shares, something I've not done before, with my own money. So it's important that you get knowledge, and go ahead and do so many things with yourself, with money, while you're still single. So today is for you, not for that person, right? As a woman, as a man, this is for you, your own financial maturity. So I will stop there. The next level of maturity that is important to have is physical maturity, right? It's very, very critical. Many people, when we talk about physical maturity, we just think about the age. It's important, yeah, because you don't want to get married while you are 12 or 13 or 14. And the brain is still developing. And because the brain is still developing, up until the age of probably like 25, thereabout, it's important that you're careful about the kind of decisions that you make. You're also sometimes at the age of your early 20s, a lot of people are still not sure. They're still yet to figure out their lives. Like, they still don't know exactly where they are going or how they really want their lives to turn out, and they are yet to catch a glimpse of their purpose in life. They're yet to catch a glimpse of their goal in life. In fact, some people in terms of career, they don't yet know. They're still trying to figure it out. They are not sure yet. Many people, in terms of where they're going to be in the future, some people I still don't know. So it's still very tough for them. And because we are still growing, many people when they eventually get married to this person who is probably not right for them, or even if the person is right for them, they realize that, you know, I want to, they get into like late 20s, early 30s, or towards their 40s, and they're like, you know what, there's still a lot more I want to do in my life. I want to do this, I want to do that. But they've married somebody who is not on that journey with them, and who is not willing to walk that journey with them either. I've met a woman who, she was in her early 40s, and that was when she actually discovered God's purpose for her life, which was fantastic. But then she's been married to this guy for almost 20 years now, who was not willing to walk that journey with her. So our own purpose was to help people, help marriages, speak to people's lives in terms of speak over people's lives in terms of their marriage, and share positive things about marriage and what have you. And she started doing this thing, and her husband was like, no, 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 no. But this was the journey that she realized she was supposed to be on, even though she had not been on it for years. But guess what, she was already married, and because her husband said no, she had to sort of cut down or tune down what she was doing, because she didn't want to lose her marriage. Now, these are things that happen when you are not mature, physically, also before you get married. And so as a single person, it's important that you understand yourself, understand where you're going to in life. Who am I, where am I going to, what's God's purpose for my life, where am I headed, what direction am I headed in, because that's going to really help the kind of person that should walk that journey with you, the kind of person that will be a proper helpmate if you're a guy, the kind of person that you will be a helpmate to, if you're a lady, you want to be able to walk that journey with the right person. And so make sure that you're clear about your career, where you want to, what you want to do in life. You're clear about your purpose, what you want to do in life. You're clear about who you are as a person. Many people do not know who they are, and so they are waiting for a man, waiting for a woman to let them know who they are, or to define who they are to them. No, 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 no. While you are still single, while you're still growing physically, make sure that you are clear about who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, you would believe the wrong things that people tell you, especially if you're a woman. If you believe, if when you probably meet the wrong kind of guy, yeah, because he will tell you you're not beautiful, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that, and that will begin to sow wrong seeds into your mind, and that is terrible. So be clear about the kind of person that you are, so you don't get yourself entangled with the wrong person, someone who would probably mar your life. Know who you are and love yourself. Get to that point where you actually love yourself for you. No, you're not trying to do things for somebody else to love you. You don't care about whether somebody loves you or not. You love yourself. Yes, you're in love with yourself, because God created you with so much love, and He poured that so much love into you, and He still loves you. So live confidently, live with joy, live with happiness, live live, that's the live joyful, live purposefully. Do not let anything limit you. You are a limitless man, a limitless woman. You're on that journey, and make sure that while you're on that journey, you only want to fulfill God's purpose for your life. And if that is the goal, you would definitely want to bring somebody along who is willing to walk that journey with you, also to fulfill God's purpose for their lives, because their own life will not now be stagnant because they are married to you. No, but you can both work together, fulfill your purposes, and your joint purposes, also individual purpose and joint purpose together. So that's the goal. That's the goal, at the end of the day in marriage. But for you, make sure that you are intentional about your own growth. You are clear, there's clarity. And so by the time you want to get married, you're asking questions based on where you are at and where you are going, and you want to see whether there is an alignment. Amos 3:3 says, can two work together except they be agreed? If there is no alignment, with the person, if you're not going in the same direction as they are, or if they're not going in the same direction as you are going, then there is no point. But if you don't even know where you are going, then anywhere is a destination, and that's not good enough. Right. So that is very important. It's important that you're clear about your own life, about God's purpose for your life, and you are also working towards it. Right. Now, the last point, the fourth level of maturity that I think is important to be aware of or to have before you get married, to prevent divorce, is emotional maturity. Emotional maturity. We don't talk about this enough. Emotional maturity is critical. In fact, many of the reasons why people divorce is because the other person feels that their spouse does not have that emotional maturity. And if as a when you get married, if your spouse is immature, whatever level of maturity the person, if you marry a spouse who is immature, I'll tell you what's going to happen. What is likely to happen is that you, who is that mature person, you might get to a point, or it might get to a point where, because you are up there in terms of maturity and that person is down there in terms of maturity, I'm not talking about physical maturity now, the different areas of maturity. If that person who is immature does not know they're immature and they're not willing to actually grow up, right? You that is mature, whether subconsciously or intentionally, you begin to treat the person like a child. So it's going to be like a parent-child relationship, and that's unhealthy for marriage. You begin to feel like you are controlling the person. You're telling the person what to do because they don't know what to do. And that person too would not like that. The person would not like the way you are treating them also. So there is going to be that gap. We are all going to be at different levels of maturity when we get married, but it's important that both of us are willing to grow. We have that growth mindset. And so when both of us are growing, it makes things a lot easier, rather than one person just choosing to remain a child and unwilling to grow, unwilling to mature, or unwilling to develop. That's going to be very frustrating in that marriage. And that's why you, as an individual, you need to work on yourself to become someone who is also mature. So back to number 4, emotional maturity. What do we mean by this? See, when you get into marriage, there are many things that will test your emotions, right? Are you the kind of person, first of all, how do you even communicate? Are you the person that will raise your voice when you want things done? Are you the kind of person, or you're the kind of person that would actually sit the other person down and you communicate your pleasures, your displeasure, especially? How do you communicate? How do you talk things out when you're unhappy or when you're not pleased? Do you just keep mute and be like, what, I'm not talking to this person, and you keep malice and there's stonewalling and all of those things that happen in many marriages today? So because how you resolve conflicts while you're still single is the same thing that you carry on while you get married. You don't think that, oh, when I get married I'm going to talk to my wife in this way or talk to my husband this way, if you're not already doing it right now. One you don't change in your behavior just because you're not married. Like, the wedding happened and boom, now I'm a new person. No, you're not a new person, you're still the same you. You're still the same you. It requires intentionality. That's why you don't marry someone with the hope that they are going to change. Unless you are comfortable, you are happy to remain in that marriage even if they do not change. So don't marry someone because you are hoping that they will change a behavior, no, or you believe or you think that they will change, no. If they've not changed while you are dating them or while you're courting them, they're probably not going to change unless they choose to change by themselves, right? So the kind of way you manage relationships too? How do you manage relationships? What kind of boundaries do you have? Do you have healthy boundaries? For example, if you're seeing someone, if you're committed to someone in a relationship, are you still flirting with other people? It tells a lot about your emotional maturity. When you offend someone, how do you apologize? Do you even apologize? Some people, they can never apologize. They will never apologize. It is not okay. It is not okay. Right? So how do you apologize to someone? We're talking about today your own maturity. How do you apologize to someone? Do you say sorry? We've talked about 5 apology languages on this podcast. You can go and find it and see what your own apology language is. What's your own love language? Are you willing to speak the love language, of others to them, also of your spouse to them? Like, you need to understand some of these things, some of these dynamics that would show up when you eventually get married, and how to handle these things. In terms of your relationship also with your parents, with your colleagues, with your friends. How do you relate with other people? Are you someone who is friendly, or are someone who nobody can associate with? These are the things that you need to work on while you are still single. Are you someone who is quick to get angry? Like, you can go from 0 to 100. You need to work on your maturity, your emotional maturity. It's very, very important. Are you someone who can empathize? Do you have empathy? Or when they're telling you about you're hearing a terrible news, and you're just nonchalant, don't care, like, you're going about your business, you're just doing other things, like, you just don't care. You cannot pay attention to what people are telling you. You're all about yourself. You're just involved and invested and obsessed with just yourself alone, that other people are not really in the picture. So it's important to be self-aware before you actually get married, because marriage is going to expose you. It's going to show you a clear picture of who you really are. Because somebody else is going to be viewing you, like they're seeing you in the mirror, and they may be telling you off, and you may not like what you are going to be hearing. Yes, in marriage. And so, if you've not worked on your own self-awareness, when your spouse is telling you those things, it will begin to upset you and annoy you, and it could feel like they're nagging, or they don't, or they're complaining, or they have nothing positive to say about you, because they don't like, some of the qualities, some of your character traits, right? And this can actually end up cause divorce, things that we call like irreconcilable differences and what have you. So it's important that you actually work on those things. Do you know what commitment is all about? Are you someone who is willing to be committed? How do you display or show commitment, in different areas of your life? When they give you an assignment, whether at work or in church or what have you, are you committed to seeing that thing succeeds? Or are you someone that's, because I don't really care, you leave it to other people, it's not your business? The same attitude that you carry with other people's work is the same attitude that you're probably going to carry also when it comes to your own, your own marriage, because marriage actually requires intentionality, a lot of work also. So are you someone who is committed? Because marriage requires commitment. If you're not willing to be committed, you cannot be married. You cannot even stay married. Yeah, no matter how grand your wedding is, you would not be able to stay married. So I think the major reason or cause, number one cause for divorce, is lack of commitment. People are not willing to commit. So what is your commitment like to things that are of your, like your own things and other people's things? How do you show commitment? So it's very, very important. Do you know how to forgive? I'll stop here. Do you know how to forgive? I cannot overemphasize this. In marriage, you would need to learn to forgive. Forgiveness, as in fact, a marriage that is working, if you see a healthy marriage that is working, it's a marriage of two forgivers. No cap. No cap. Like, if two people, if you see a successful marriage, like a marriage where both husband and wife are truly, genuinely happy, is a marriage of two forgivers. I forgive every day. And my husband will tell you the same. We forgive every single day. Like, there are times that we hurt each other unintentionally, but we choose. You have to choose that you will forgive. And so, as a single person, if you want to prevent divorce before you even get married, you need to start learning forgiveness while you are still single, while start learning forgiveness. So your parents have hurt you, you're still holding on to the hurt of your mom, the hurt your mom caused you, or the hurt your dad caused you. See, that's small compared to what you might experience in marriage. Learn to start letting go, because it is important. If you don't want your marriage to add to the statistics of divorce, learn to start forgiving. Now, people hurt you, your friends hurt you, they say negative things about you, blah 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 blah. Forgive and move on, please, because your own mental health is much more important, and most importantly, you wanting to make heaven. I mean, why allow anybody stay rent free in your head? Like, they're not worth that, right? For your own sanity, for your own peace of mind, and for your own spiritual journey, it's important to just let go. Let as in completely just have nothing to do with hurt, have nothing to do with grudges. I like the saying that goes that when you keep grudges, it's like drinking grudges, like drinking poison, expecting somebody else to get hurt from the poison. No, you're the one that's gonna get hurt. So why keep the grudge? Why drink the poison? It's not worth it. So start learning to let go today. I know forgiveness is not easy. It requires a lot, and that's why it's important that you have God with you to start with, and you have God to pour out that hurt to. So if you're struggling to let go, if you're kind of person that things get to you and you can't stand some things, little, big, whatever the size is, you just cannot stand it. It's important that you begin to ask God to help you work on your tolerance level. You need to work on that also as a single person, your level of tolerance, your level of you being able to accommodate people, because people will come with their excesses. Have that's ask God to help you develop the ability to accommodate people, accommodate their weaknesses, things that are not in alignment with your own style or ways of doing things, right? So ask God to help you. The way you talk to people, emotional intelligence is very important before you get married. The way you address people, you don't talk down to people. You've got to be sensitive to what's happening around you. I can go on and on, but most important thing is develop level some good level of emotional maturity before you get married. So just to recap, we talked about number one, we talked about spiritual maturity, very important. We talked about financial maturity, very important. We talked about physical maturity, very important. And finally, emotional maturity. I'm sure there's still a lot more that we can talk about, but that's all that I have to talk about today. And it is my prayer, it is our prayer that your marriage works, and that most importantly, you get it right as a single person before you get married. So if you've waited up until this time, thank you so much for watching. If you are yet to like this video, please hit that like button right away. Yes, hit it. Hit the like button right away. It's not difficult. Yeah, and feel free to also leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. What other sort of emotional sort of level of maturity are you do you think that people should have before they get married, to prevent the risk of being divorced? If you have been divorced before, what level of maturity do you think that you should have had before you eventually before you got married? If you're single, you've listened to this, do you have any questions? We would respond. Whether you're watching the replay later, we'll definitely respond. So until we see you again next time, thank you so much for watching. This is Purpose Driven Marriage Podcast. Feel free to share this video too to your friends, and God bless you. Bye for now.